The Blackberry Z10 debuted months ago as BlackBerry's way of getting into the modern smartphone age. The Blackberry Q10 is seen as the bridge between the new and the old. But which one is better? I'm Andrew from MobileBurn.com. Let's take a look at the Blackberry 10 flagship devices for 2013. Now, it's not hard to tell that the obvious difference between these two devices is that the BlackBerry Q10 has a physical keyboard. And as I wrote in the review of the Q10, it's a very nice keyboard and it's easy to input. But the presence of that keyboard means that the screen has to shrink down to 3.1 inch. It's Super AMOLED 720 by 720, so it's a nice little square. Contrast that with the more rectangular BlackBerry Z10. It's a 4.2 inch display. It's 720p resolution, so it's got a 15 by 9 aspect ratio, which is going to come in handy when you're watching video, when you're browsing the web. You're going to have more space to do what you need to do, and it's going to provide more screen real estate to get the things that you want to do. So as a media device, the BlackBerry Z10 off the bat is a better option. At first glance, these two phones don't look alike, but from a utility perspective, they're very similar. When you look on the right-hand side, they've both got volume up and down buttons as well as buttons to control media and search. On the left-hand side, micro USB and micro HDMI ports on both of them. And on the back, 8 megapixel rear cameras with LED flash. On the front, 2 megapixel cameras for video calling and indicator lights to let you know when you have notifications. In terms of the design, otherwise, there's not much similarity between the two. Obviously, the Z10 is taller, more boxy. The Q10 is more compact and it's a little rounder. The back here is a glass weave that really feels nice, like a really nice material on it. And it curves and wraps around to the end, and you got this little metal line to kind of distinguish it. While the Z10 is a little simple, but simple can be good in my opinion. The material on the back is kind of similar to the Google Nexus 7. It's got a bunch of little tiny dots, those like little dimples, and it feels like a premium, not leather, not rubber, but a kind of a nice in between the two. Either way, the material is really nice and you really can't go wrong with either of these devices. You've got your headphone jack at the top as well as a power button, but of course you don't need to test the power button. You can unlock by swiping up from the bottom of the screen. When you go below the surface, you'll see there are even more similarities where it counts the most. They both have micro SD slots that are up to 32 gigabytes in case you run out of storage on the 16 gigabytes of internal memory. The same there. They both have micro SIM slots. They both have a 1.5 gigahertz dual-core processor made by Qualcomm. So the performance that you see on either device should be pretty similar. They both have 2 gigabytes of RAM, and there's not much lag in terms of what you see in terms of built-in applications and performance, switching between apps when you need to go to the hub or anything like that. Everything seems to be pretty quick. Now, what can be a little deceptive is the battery. Even though the battery on the Z10 might look a little bit bigger, it's actually smaller. This is only an 1800 milliamp capacity battery. The Q10 has a 2100 milliamp, and that's good for more than a couple of reasons. Obviously, being able to store more energy will extend your battery life, but also it uses a lot of dark backgrounds because this is a Super AMOLED screen, and Super AMOLED screens do better with conserving energy when you display a black background. So it does that in the calendar, in the contacts, and other applications. You notice that. Then you have to factor in that it has the smaller screen. The Z10 has a bigger screen, and bigger screens tend to use up more energy. So when you have a smaller screen, higher capacity, obviously this is going to be the phone that lasts all day. So if you're one of those road warriors who doesn't have access to a charger, or you don't want to walk around with multiple battery packs, the Q10 is going to have the longer battery life. I mentioned that the keyboard is what separates the Q10 and the Z10, and that's ultimately going to make your decision pretty easily, or at least that's the way it seems. Now, with the physical keyboard on the Q10, if you're someone who likes that, having the feedback that you get from actually pressing down on H, and H is what appears on screen, this is going to be something that you're really going to like. Now, I'm not someone who prefers physical keyboards, but over the past few weeks, I've grown comfortable again with typing on them, and I will say that the Q10 is a very nice phone in that regard. It has raised keys that kind of slant at an angle, so when you press down on G, it discourages you from sliding over and tapping H by accident. So if you type pretty fast, you should be okay on this. However, I would still challenge everyone who's dead set on getting a physical keyboard to at least try out the virtual keyboard on the Blackberry Q10, because it's actually pretty good. The way it works is that as you start typing, it begins to try to predict what you mean to say. So when I put EV, you notice that it selects every. So it says, is that what you're trying to say? If I swipe up from E, every is automatically entered. So if you move along pretty fast, you can type on this pretty well. And it also has very good text prediction on it. So if I start typing a sentence, every day I walk to the bakery and buy a banana bread, okay? What does it say? Every day I walk to the bakery and buy a banana, oh wait. Okay, there we go, bread. When I press space, it auto-corrected. So it does a very good job of fixing the mistakes that you might make, and you can actually type on this very fast. So even if you're someone who says, oh, I need to have that physical keyboard, I actually think you might be able to get by on this within time. Either way, it's up to you, but don't think that the presence of a virtual keyboard is a significant drop-off on the Z10, because it's quite the opposite. Depending on how you type, this can be a serious boost to how fast you're able to move. Both of these devices run Blackberry 10 software, hence the 10 in their names. Now, even though it's technically the same software, it's actually a much better experience on the Z10. Let me give you an example of why. When I launched this app called Songza, it says, it's a Saturday afternoon, here's some playlists of music you should listen to fit the right mood of the time and date. When I open the same app on the Blackberry Q10, you'll see it's just a blank spot. And that's because the Songza hasn't been updated to fit the to fit the Q10's resolution. Now I'm sure you're saying, oh, the developer can just make a couple of changes that should be easy to do. But that's the point. They've had weeks to do that, and they haven't done that. So there are certain apps that you really like that you may notice just don't take advantage of the extra space. And that's rather disappointing. And it's important to remember, BlackBerry has a hard enough time with the app situation. A lot of these apps were ported over from Android. When you browse through the BlackBerry app world, you'll see a lot of these were just ported apps, came over from Android. Now, these developers who have already taken the step to bring their app from another platform to another OS aren't taking the extra step to make those apps compatible with this device. And that limits your choices, which is kind of disappointing. And aside from that, the apps that do make themselves available, they have to contend with the smaller screen space. So it's not the same experience. Overall, I think the BlackBerry Z10 is going to be much better in terms of using media applications for sure. It's going to be much better in terms of getting third-party app options, and it's going to be better for using the apps that come pre-installed on BlackBerry 10 software. The million-dollar question is, how badly do I need a physical keyboard? If the answer is very badly, then obviously the BlackBerry Q10 is probably the way you want to go. And you won't be too disappointed, because the material on here is really nice. It's fantastic. It's a very portable phone. It has great battery life. And for the most part, all of the BlackBerry 10 features that you know and love will be available, including shortcuts. So you can just type anywhere, just say call CAL, and it knows to call someone, and that's a great feature to have on the BlackBerry Q10. But at the same time, you won't get as good a media experience as you would if you opt for the BlackBerry Z10. Now, again, I challenge anyone who is saying, I'm a keyboard loyalist, I need to have that physical keyboard, at least try out the keyboard on the BlackBerry Z10. You will be very surprised how good it is. And then remember, when you go with the Z10, you get more options in terms of third-party applications. So when you're browsing BlackBerry World, you don't need to worry about, has this app been designed to fit appropriately on this one? Was it auto-ported, or the developer take the time and make sure everything came out right? Overall, you can get a very solid experience on either of these BlackBerry 10 devices, but I think the Z10 is going to be better as an overall device, and you're probably going to want to get this as long as you can survive without having the physical keyboard. This is Andrew from MobileBurn.com reviewing the BlackBerry Z10 and the BlackBerry Q10. Two different takes on where BlackBerry wants to take its operating system in the future. Hopefully this video helped you make a choice on which device is best for you. And if you did like this video, please feel free to subscribe and check out our other videos on this channel. Thanks for watching.